Welcome to Tribe Triathlon, the podcast for athletes who don't just train and race, they belong. Whether you're chasing a new PR, dialing in your race day, or just love all things triathlon, you're in the right place. Each episode provides actionable insights to improve your next training session or race. My name is John Mayfield, and I am a seasoned triathlon coach with years of experience guiding hundreds of athletes from their first long course event all the way to World Championship qualifications. So rack your bike, lace up your shoes, and let's get ready to train smarter, race stronger, and thrive within the tribe. This is Tribe Triathlon. Welcome back to the Tribe Triathlon podcast. So here we are in a new year. Welcome to 2026. I hope that this year is full of prosperity in your personal life, your professional life, and of course, your triathlon career. I would love to be part of your triathlon journey this year. Again, I have done all I can to remove as much of that financial burden as possible and lowering my costs down as much as I can. So check out the Tribe coaching on our website, or reach out for more information on that. But again, Happy New Year. Welcome to 2026. And I want to reflect back on my story. So kind of what led me here to this place, here today, here now, really started back on January 1st of 2007. And as I was thinking about this earlier, I can't believe it's been 19 years. So we're going on 2 decades here that I actually had a New Year's resolution that I think is still going 19 years later. So January 1st, 2007, I was around 230 pounds. I was about 10 years out of high school. I was through college. I'd started my career. My first career was in the banking industry, and I was sedentary and I was overweight, and I decided I didn't want to be anymore. So quite conveniently, a 24-hour fitness was having their grand opening literally right outside my neighborhood, and I lived on the side of the neighborhood where the gym was. So it was at most maybe a quarter mile, probably more like a couple hundred yards away. So I had absolutely no excuse not to be going to the gym. So I went that first day, and I went back those first 90 days of the year. I think I missed like 3 days of going to the gym. So I established a routine, and in those 90 days, I think I lost about 40 pounds. So in 90 days, I was down to about 190. And then over the course of about 6 months, I got down to around 180. So I lost 50, 60 pounds in the first 6 months of 2007. And that's really what kind of started my athletic career back. I was athletic in high school, but then took about 10 years off. And so at first, it was just going to the gym, doing a little cardio. And then the next year, I had a buddy invite me to do a half marathon. I had another buddy invite me to do a triathlon, and 19 years later, here I am. So the rest is history, as they say. And I'm proud to say that of all the New Year's resolutions, at least I kept this one. So it's been an ongoing battle ever since. I'm a little overweight right now. I need to get back to my race weight. So that's something that I've dealt with all throughout the past 19 years. But it's great to be here. So, do you have a New Year's resolution? What is it? What have you had success with in the past? And what are you looking to do in 2026? So chime in on our socials and let us know. So we are going to be closing out our series here on swimming, cycling, and running fundamentals. Gotten good feedback so far on the swim and the bike. Looking forward to sharing more on the run. And then obviously as we get past this series, we're going to be talking a whole lot more about each one of these disciplines, but in different facets of that. So we're going to see some similarities on some of these other discussions that we've had, because there are a lot of similarities and common threads in between. So we're going to start with technique. We're talking about training, strength training, gear, and common mistakes, and end with some tips. So, technique. Running is a little bit different than swimming and cycling. What we talked about in swimming is it is very technique driven. There is much less reliance on power than technique. So we really want to focus on improving our swim technique before power. Cycling is kind of the opposite of that. We rely primarily on power to generate our speed. Our success in cycling really comes from the ability to translate power to those pedals. There's not a whole lot of technique in cycling. There's a little bit, but it's not really determining our splits near as much as in swimming. Running is kind of a mix of the two. We obviously need to have good technique and we need to be able to generate power. So it's kind of fitting that it comes third. We're doing technique first, then power, and then we put it all together for the run. So you know how to run. However old you are, you can subtract about 2 years from that, and that's probably about how long you've been running. So you've been running for a very long time, and the body was built to run. We are bipedal in nature, so we know how to move using our 2 feet, our 2 legs. It is ingrained within us to know how to walk and then how to run. And again, you've been doing this for a very long period of time. Even if you haven't been running, you've been walking on a daily basis. There are very few days in your life where you didn't take a few steps. And walking isn't running, but it is in a certain extent very similar in how we do it. So this is one reason I am always reluctant to make major differences, major changes to an athlete's run stride, their technique. There are some things that we can do, but what I'd rather do is work with an individual to see what they're already doing, what is their natural physiology, what is their natural path in running, and then are there major things that we need to change, or is it just some small things that we need to tweak? So we're going to discuss a whole lot of things there, but I kind of translate this back to when we learn how to talk. We're learning how to talk around that same time that we're learning how to walk and then run. And in doing so, we develop certain muscular strengths, and this is really where our accents come from. So regardless of what language that you speak or you learn, basically as you're learning that language in the first couple of years of life, you're also developing your jaw muscles, your facial muscles, all those muscles that go into how we speak. And then that really doesn't change over the course of our lives. So if you live in a particular region that has a strong accent and then you move away, you don't typically lose that accent. Or if you learn a new language, say in adulthood, you are still going to speak that new language with your native accent because the body forms and adjust in those early years. So walking and running is very similar to that. So again, it can be difficult to make big changes, just like if you were trying to lose or to gain an accent. And in doing that, you do have some increased risk. So I want to work with what we're already doing and what we have. So a couple basic fundamentals of running is it starts with a forward lean from the ankles. So what we're looking to do here is generate momentum with a forward lean that comes from the ankles. So not from the waist, not from the head leaning forward, but a slight forward lean originating at the ankles to where the entire body has a bit of forward lean. The head remains neutral, so it's that neutral spine. It will be a little forward just because we are going to have a little bit of that forward lean, but we don't want the head looking down, looking up, rather, again, in that neutral spine position. Elbows are at 90 degrees. So this is something I see pretty often. A lot of times athletes, runners will pull their arms into a much more acute angle, but we want to be relaxed and maintain those elbows at 90 degrees where we have a nice spacing between the upper and lower arm. And then the stride starts with a knee drive. So we're going to drive that knee up and then the foot will land underneath the body. And then that's going to transition over to the push. So basically, it's what we all do in our running. It's pushing off, driving that knee forward, and then allowing that foot to come back under the body, and then transition over to the push phase. So one thing that I do like to make some changes on is the upper body. So the lower body does what the upper body does. And in doing so, this makes it a little easier to make some adjustments. We have better proprioception, better neural paths with our upper body than our lower body. So it's often easier to make these changes and really to ingrain them when we're working on the upper body as opposed to the lower body. But given that the entire body is connected, even though we're not really focusing on or thinking about our upper body when we run. We're obviously relying on the legs. The upper body still influences the movement of the lower body, so we can make adjustments and improvements there. What we want to make sure here is that the arms are tracking forward and back. What we see a lot of times are the arms crossing, and there will be a certain amount of natural crossing over, but what we really want to maintain is a pretty steady forward and backward motion with the arms. Think about a sprinter when they're sprinting. They are really epitomizing this. Those arms are pumping with every stride, and they're really pumping in straight sagittal plane lines, not really rocking back and forth, not getting crossed over the body. And we also want to make sure that the hips are still. So what we'll see here a lot of times is a combination of this, is the arms tracking across, and that then is going to turn the hips, which that in turn turns the legs, the ankles, the feet, all of those. So we lose efficiency and we increase our injury risk in doing so. One thing that I've used for a long time to demonstrate the arms at 90 degrees tracking forward and back. Gen X kids like me will remember the Rock'em Sock'em robots. It was a toy we had back in the day. It was two robots in a boxing ring, and you would face off with your buddy and basically just push a button, and these robots would do a great job of maintaining a 90-degree elbow and tracking those arms forwards and back, and then one of their heads would pop off and declare the winner. But so that's even kind of a thought that I've maintained throughout that, is what does that Rock'em Sock'em robot look like, driving that 90-degree arm back and forth. So moving on to the foot strike. A lot of conversation around this, a lot of different philosophies even, but basically what we want to make sure is that foot strike is landing underneath the body, so not out in front, and around midfoot. So not up on the toes, not back on the heel, somewhere in the neighborhood of midfoot. Again, a lot of discussion around both of these, where to land the foot and where on the foot we're striking the ground. But general consensus is we want to make sure that the foot is striking underneath the body, somewhere in the neighborhood of the midfoot. And it's going to be a little bit different for everyone. There are a lot of different things that can influence where is your optimal place to land your foot. If you are landing with your foot out forward or heel striking, usually it's a combination of both. That's going to act like a brake. So if you were to think about if you were running and you wanted to make a very quick stop, if you're running downhill trying to catch yourself, basically that's what you would do is try to put your heel out and kind of dig in there. Think about like a mule digging in. That's what they're doing. They're putting their feet out in front, relying on that shape. So that's something we want to avoid. We want to make sure that our run stride is promoting the next step and continuing to preserve momentum and preserve the energy that's being expended by that stride, as opposed to working against it. And that's what that heel strike is going to do. That heel strike is also going to send a increased amount of energy up through the heel, into the leg, into the knees primarily, but also the hips, that whole kinetic chain. So what we see very commonly is a increased rate of injury among heel strikers, simply because there is that much more impact that is translating over to the body. And that really is the biggest reason why running does carry with it a higher risk and a higher occurrence of injury, simply because of that increased impact. We don't have it with swimming, we don't have it cycling. Obviously, we have quite a bit of impact when we run, so we want to make sure that we are running in such a way that we're minimizing that impact up through the body, and heel striking is the opposite of that. In fact, it actually maximizes the impact that is going to be felt up in through the body. So before we start a session, it's important to get in a dynamic warm-up. So we want to avoid static stretching. This is something that goes back for decades. I remember in school when we were running, they would have us do all of those static stretches. Basically, there is a increased risk of injury with static stretching, and it's largely counterproductive. What those static stretches are doing is stretching out the muscle, and it reduces the elasticity of the muscle. That is how our muscles generate force is by that elasticity. So we don't want to reduce that. So you think about having a new rubber band. It's nice and tight. It pops back and forth. But if you increase the amount of times you pull that rubber band and stretch it out over and over, it's going to lose elasticity. It's not going to pop back as strong, or it's not going to hold whatever's in it as tightly as it did before. Our muscles work in a very similar way. So we want to make sure that we are not reducing that elasticity of the muscle by doing those static stretches prior to a session. What we want to do is start with muscle activation. So muscle activations are low intensity movements to wake up the muscles. A great demonstration of this is, if you can remember, first thing in the morning to make a fist. It is an odd sensation, odd feeling to see how weak your fist actually is. So right now, I can make a fist. I feel strong. I feel like, it's a lot of pressure there. But if I were to do that first thing in the morning, it wouldn't be near as strong. So that's just a good representation of how our muscles do tend to kind of go to sleep, and we do need to wake them up. So that's important to do prior to these sessions. So we want to focus on the hips, the glutes, the quads, the hamstring. So kind of the big three leg muscles as well as the hips. These are the ones that are going to be utilized the most as we run. So we want to make sure that they are fully functional, fully firing, getting full benefit of all of that physiology. So a couple of my favorite dynamic warm-ups are leg lifts, leg swings, lunges, and bridges. But there's a whole host of other things that you can do. But basically what we're doing here is engaging those muscles and just beginning to loosen things up so that we can use those muscles effectively, train them effectively, and reduce our risk of injury. Another great thing to do is incorporate drills into your run. So these drills are going to reinforce and teach proper technique. And it's important to understand the intent of each drill so that you can maximize the effectiveness of that drill. That drill is going to be much more effective if you understand why you're doing it. That is going to give you insights on how to do that drill. So it's important that you understand the intent of that drill prior to doing it, as well as how to do it properly. Obviously, that's quite important. These drills can be done after that dynamic warm-up. They can be done in the middle of a set. They can be done at the end of the set, any combination thereof. In fact, a great run set would have a set of drills in the beginning, in the middle, and at the end. Something I tell my athletes is, if they are limited on time, say you have 1 hour to get in a run, you have a 1 hour run on your schedule for that day, I would rather you take 10, 15, 20 minutes of that hour to make sure that you are getting in a good warm-up with that muscle activation and a set of drills, as opposed to just running for that entire hour. I would rather see 40 minutes of running and 20 minutes of drills and muscle activation, as opposed to just 60 minutes. So it is that important and that beneficial to your run. So what we want to do is improve our weaknesses and the intent of that session. So we talked about this like with our swim drills. We want to make sure that the drills that we are doing are going to improve our running. So we want to make sure that those drills are the right ones for our strides, whatever our objective is to either improve, or whatever the objective of the session is. We want to make sure that the drills are reinforcing that and working with it. So a couple of great drills, very common ones you're going to see really all over the place. Side skips and karaoke, not to be confused with karaoke. That is what you do with your friends, go to the bar and sing. That's karaoke. Karaoke is the side stride, moving back and forth. These are going to engage the stability muscles in the hips, help wake those up, as well as loosen up the hips so that they can operate and move properly. Another very common drill are the A skips and the B skips. These are going to engage the glutes, the hamstrings, promote knee drive as well as the backwards pull, especially when we get into that B skip. That's really the difference between the A skip and the B skip. B skip includes that backwards pull with the leg as well as the arm swing. So this is something that sometimes can be neglected. Again, as we focus on the movements of doing that A skip and B skip, we can get caught up in focusing on just what the legs are doing, but it's a great opportunity to really dial in those 90-degree arms moving back and forth along with this. So not to neglect those. And then butt kicks, high knees, and bounding. These are great for promoting knee drive, foot placement, and arm swing. And I would say knee drive, foot placement, and arm swing are kind of your trifecta of really good run technique, run form. If you dial in those things, you're going to go a very long way in having really good run technique. It's going to reduce your risk of injury. It's going to maximize your speed. So focusing on knee drive, foot placement, arm swing, that's going to get you far. One of the other things that I would say perhaps is the most important and oftentimes the biggest room for I would say low-hanging fruit, some opportunities for gains, is to optimize cadence. So generally what we want to see is a cadence around 85 to 90 steps per minute. So that is per foot. This is often expressed in running as both. So in that case, it's more like a 170 to 180 cadence. That's going to be obviously 2 steps, or cut that in half for your 1 step. I like to think of it in terms of your single foot, simply because that's how we talk about our cycling cadence. And as you'll see, they're quite similar, and they actually do work together. As you are maximizing your cadence on the bike, that's going to set up your run cadence as well. So the physiology works well together. So I like to think of it in the way of matching the cycling cadence as well. So too low of a cadence can indicate just too slow of a turnover, or it can be too much vertical oscillation. So instead of moving forward, you're actually moving up. So that's kind of like when we go back to the swim, we talked about the hand pushing down. That's not going to propel us forward, just like moving up doesn't move us forward in our run. So too much vertical oscillation, or just too slow of a turnover. If this is the case, if you have that lower cadence, if you're, say, somewhere below 80 steps per minute, focus on shorter, quicker steps. This can feel very awkward in the beginning. It can feel just kind of like you're shuffling along. I remember this is something that I had to do early on, and I remember just thinking like I was just shuffling. But what I noticed was kind of like when we talk about cycling as well, once I lowered the stride and had a higher cadence, what I saw was my heart rate decrease for the same given pace. So it was actually more efficient, more optimal for me to be running with those shorter strides, even though they felt a little bit choppy. Now it just feels natural. So focus on that. If your cadence is too high, you're getting too little distance per stride. So here we want to focus on knee drive, and that's going to create a longer stride. This is something that I am guilty of, especially when I'm running faster. So if I'm doing, say high intensity intervals on the track, if I'm running a 5K, something like that, generally my cadence is right around that 85 number. But when I get into these paces where I'm trying to, say, be at a 5K, 10K pace, I can creep up into the 90s, 92, 93. And what I find there is I'm trying to generate speed from a higher turnover as opposed to a longer stride. So speed comes from distance per stroke, not that higher cadence. So we want to get more out of each step, not more steps. So as we can see here, there are a whole lot of parallels between swimming and cycling and what we're doing on the run. So we want to maximize our cadence. Some of the things that we do if we're too low, too high, just like we don't want to maximize our speed in swimming by having more strokes. We want to maximize the distance per stroke. DPS, same thing, distance per stroke, distance per stride. Both of those are going to work very much hand in hand. So we're looking to be efficient in our movements, get the most out of our movements, and both in swimming and running, that comes from getting the most out of either our stroke or our stride. So a couple things to focus on when training for the run. We want to focus on increasing our speed or our functional threshold. Again, just like we did on the bike, for the same reasons. So regardless of the distance, your FTP determines your run split. So how fast do you run? And that is going to translate across the board from your short-term intervals, say your 200s, your 400s, all the way up through your marathon pace. The faster your short paces are, the faster your marathon paces are going to be. So as we work to develop our speed, which is expressed as that functional threshold, pace or power in this case, we are going to be able to run faster across the board. We also want to make sure that we are looking to increase our aerobic efficiency. So this is a little bit of kind of two mutually exclusive things, but we can work together in our training to maximize both our functional threshold pace as well as our aerobic efficiency. It is more difficult with running, but it is also more valuable. So we talked about increasing our aerobic efficiency when we talked about cycling, and we stated then that increasing and building aerobic efficiency is easier on the bike than it is on the run. And that's simply because it is harder to run than it is to ride a bike. We are sitting down. We are using mechanical advantage to generate our movement on the bike, whereas when we're running, we are absorbing all of our weight onto our feet, and we're having to do all of the work without any of that mechanical advantage that we're getting on the bike. So it is natural that we are going to be operating at a higher heart rate when we are running as opposed to cycling. But it is really going to pay off, especially in long course racing, when we have this aerobic efficiency. So when I say aerobic efficiency, what I'm referring to is the cardiovascular system being able to deliver the oxygen, remove the metabolic waste, all those things that the cardiovascular system does at a lower heart rate than at a higher heart rate. So what we look to do in developing this aerobic efficiency is for a given amount of work, whether we measure that as power on the bike, pace on the run, what we want to do with aerobic efficiency is lower the cost of that power, of that pace, by developing this aerobic efficiency, allowing the body to not have to work as hard to generate the same result. So that comes through aerobic efficiency, and that comes through maintaining zone 1, zone 2 work, allowing the body to do all those things at a low heart rate. You can develop aerobic efficiency at those higher heart rates, but it is more difficult to do so, and you're not going to make the same improvement. So it is important that we get in plenty of easy running, and easy defined in different ways, but making sure we are below that aerobic threshold. So usually it's defined as zone 1, zone 2. Generally, you can't go too easy when we're trying to do this. You certainly can go too hard, but it's one of those things that is really, in this case, sometimes easier is better. Once we've done that, we want to build stamina when necessary. So this is something that we talked about in cycling as well, but it really is that much more important when we move on to running. There is a higher risk of injury, and it takes longer to recover from long run sessions. So sometimes if we are doing too many miles, running too far, running too long, we can sabotage future sessions or set back future sessions because of the recovery demand that those sessions create. So we want to make sure that we are optimizing our time, both in the session and in the week. How does a run session impact our ability to execute future sessions? So we want to make sure that we are not running more than we have to. As we mentioned before, stamina is cheap, threshold is expensive. So it is hard to drive down that 5K time. It's going to take an experienced athlete months or years to make significant improvement in that 5K time, Whereas your ability to go from, say, a 5K, 10K type endurance to a half marathon or even a marathon, with proper training, we can do that in just a few months, 3-4 months. We can very easily go from, say, running 1-hour sessions all the way up to running a marathon. So not a whole lot there. And once again, the objective is to produce the fastest run split possible at the lowest physiological expense. So this is going to come through that aerobic efficiency. That is going to come through increasing our threshold to where we're able to run as fast as possible. So that's, again, producing that fastest run split at the lowest physiological expense. And largely we measure that through heart rate, but it also talks about how many calories we burn. All of that is related. All of that is intertwined. So these are a couple of ways that we're able to produce that fastest run split at that lowest physiological expense. So, as mentioned on cycling as well, strength training is a huge opportunity that is often neglected. This is going to allow us to increase power and reduce fatigue. Now, it's not going to be to the same extent as in cycling. Obviously, if we really focus on building strong legs, that's going to directly impact our ability to apply force to the pedals. It's not quite as much in running. So if you look at, say, a track cyclist, huge legs, massive quads. If you look at a marathoner, obviously they look a whole lot different. But even a sprinter, if we want to compare more so distance to distance, your track cyclist and, say, your track athletes, even up to 200s, 400s, much different physiology. Or you could say your Tour de France cyclist compared to the marathon runners. Not a whole lot difference there. So we're not necessarily looking to increase our power quite as much when running, but it will certainly help. We want to increase the muscular endurance and reduce the propensity to cramp. So this is actually something that can be very beneficial in our running, in our running, is to do strength training that is going to increase the muscular endurance, so allowing that muscle to continue to fire properly for as long as possible. That is largely developed through our running and through our run training, but increasing and adding our strength training in here is only going to further enhance that. And the stronger that muscle is and the greater the muscular endurance of that muscle, the less likely it is to cramp. So cramping is obviously one of those things that a lot of us get into when especially racing long course, running half marathon, 70.3 Ironman distance events. Cramping is pretty common. A lot of different reasons for cramping, and one of those can be just fatigue of the muscle and it's no longer firing properly. So strength training can help with that. So in order to do this, we want to lift heavy and get in those high reps. So lifting heavy is going to increase the muscular power, the higher reps more so into that muscular endurance. We want to hit the big three, just like in cycling: glutes, hamstrings, quads. We mentioned those when we were talking about the active warm-up and engaging those, because those are primarily the muscles that we are going to be using. So we want to strengthen those, but we really want to focus on the stability muscles. So we're already hitting those big three in our cycling focus. And there's not necessarily a trip to the gym to focus on cycling and then another different trip to the gym to focus on running, but we can combine these two. But we want to get in primarily working on those big three, the lifting heavy for the big three muscles. But in running, we really want to make sure we are focusing on the stability muscles. So this is going to be your ankles, your lower legs, your hips, abductors, adductors, all these smaller muscle groups that go into stabilizing us. And this is where we often will have injuries. So we don't see injuries in the glutes, the quads, the hamstrings quite as much as we do in the ankles, in the lower legs, in the feet. And a lot of times that's because we neglect those. They're not as large, so they are more susceptible to injury. So if we can focus on developing those, that is going to reduce our risk of injury as well as cramping. So especially like the abductors, adductor muscles, I know for me, those are prone to cramping. So that's something that I always focus on, is really strengthening those. And since doing so, I've seen a drastic reduction in the propensity for those to cramp. So not a whole lot of gear when it comes to running. I guess you could say there's as much gear as you want there to be, but of utmost importance, paramount here is properly fitting shoes. So I am a massive proponent of getting a good fit for your bike. I am equally as big proponent for getting a good fit for your shoes. It's not necessarily required every time you buy a pair of shoes to go and actually get fit and work with someone that knows what they're doing. But I would say at least periodically go in and make sure that the shoes that you are buying, the shoes that you're wearing are going to be best for you. So most running most running shoe stores have very knowledgeable staff. And they can do a great job at not only measuring your foot to make sure you're getting the right size, but also watching you walk, maybe watching you run on a treadmill to help you make suggestions on what kind of shoe and which model, brand, all those kinds of things. Likely they're going to give you several pairs to try on so you can see which feels best. So going through that process is going to ensure that you're getting the right shoe for you. So not only having the right shoe for you, but also having the right shoes for whatever you're doing in that session. So I would like to say there's kind of 2 to 3 different categories of shoes that you should be utilizing throughout your training. And first is your daily or your long run shoe. This is going to be a little bit of a beefier shoe, a little heavier, a little more stability in it. That is going to help reduce the physiological expense of those long runs, help reduce the recovery time, reduce the risk of injury in all those miles that we're running. So this is kind of your primary day-to-day shoe that you're going to use. That is not going to be necessarily a great shoe for going out and doing speed work, tempo work, going out and running on the track. So in this case, you may want to have a little bit more aggressive shoe that is going to help you run those faster paces, be more conducive to that speed work, tempo work, and then either utilize that shoe or you may have a dedicated race shoe. So this is something that it's been around a long time, but I'll say has really increased in the last 5 to 7 years, probably. Years ago, I would say 5 to 7 years ago, you never saw a Nike on the Ironman course. Back when they used to do the gear count in Kona of thousands of athletes, 1,500 athletes or whatever it was, there was like single digit athletes that were actually wearing Nikes, where you had Brooks and Asics and all the other big run brands very much more dominant in that count. That flipped when Nike started coming out with the carbon-plated shoes, and so it went from almost no Nike representation on the race course to a couple of years later, almost exclusive out there on the run course. Then the other shoe manufacturers kind of caught up. They started offering the carbon-plated shoes, and so those are primarily a race shoe. They have a different compound on the bottom, so they don't last as long. Also, those carbon plates fatigue. So we want to reserve those either for our race preparation sessions or primarily for race day, simply because they don't last as long and they're real expensive. So we do want to make sure that they are good prior to race day. So whether you're buying that shoe for the first time, or maybe they've sat in the closet several months, maybe through the winter months, you go to do your first race of the season. You're going to want to try them on, make sure that everything still feels good, they're still in good shape prior. But we want to minimize the miles that we're putting on those race shoes. Another important thing are some blister-free socks, especially once our miles increase. That is something that we are certainly prone to and can be no fun. So I'm a huge fan of Swiftwick socks. Those are what work for me, and that's almost exclusively what is in my sock drawer. Big fan of those. And then from there, comfortable clothes, headwear, hydration. this is really whatever works for you. So again, not a whole lot on gear, primarily revolving around the shoes. And then one other thing that you can add is a run power meter or a foot pod. These run power meters help basically in the same way that a power meter on your bike will. So as we especially run on hillier, more undulating courses, we oftentimes will use pace as our primary metric to measure our intensity, but the reliance or credibility of pace in a hilly course is drastically reduced. So what we are able to do here by using one of these run power meters is we're able to then measure both on an uphill, downhill, flat, what is the effort that is being exerted, because we're really looking to maintain a steady effort, a steady pace, but it kind of flattens the course, so to speak. So regardless of what your actual pace is, it's going to convert that effort over into a wattage. So then you'll know exactly how much effort that you are exerting. These are also great for treadmills. Treadmills are notoriously inaccurate. We don't know really how long they've been since maintained or how their calibration is. The pace on a treadmill, who knows? But these foot pods are much more accurate, so they can provide some good feedback there, both for pace and distance on the treadmill. Some common issues. The most common issue with running is that increased risk of injury. A couple things can contribute to that or lead to that. First would be the inadequate warm-up. So we talked about the importance of that dynamic warm-up, allowing these muscles to engage and get warm prior to really taxing them as we do when we are running. Too many miles is another common reason we have injuries. So we talked about how running is high impact, that impact from the ground translates up through the body. You get too much of that, and that is going to increase your risk of injury. So too many miles at the wrong time of year, or increasing your mileage too quickly, all those things can lead to increased injury risk. And then inadequate recovery and strength training. So like we talked about, developing those small muscular groups, especially below the knee, neglecting to strengthen those. And then inadequate recovery, whether it be time between sessions or those modalities that we use in our run recovery. Things like compression, massage, ice bath, those kinds of things are critical in allowing us to maintain both our run training, our run mileage, as well as our swimming and cycling. Some other common issues is neglecting varying speed. It's real common for triathletes and runners just to go out and run a pace. I know when I first started running, as I mentioned early on, I signed up for a half marathon, and every mile I ran in training was the exact same pace. And that continued on for a little bit until I learned the importance of varying the pace. So we talked about increasing our functional threshold, as well as developing our aerobic efficiency. Those happen at two drastically different paces, two drastically different intensity levels. So we're going to make sure that we are hitting both of them, as well as some paces in between and all of that. So a properly structured training plan is going to have a good bit of variety in the paces that are prescribed. And then they're also going to work together so that one session is supporting and not sabotaging another. Another common issue is that low cadence. We talked about that, the need to increase that and how to do that. Right along with that is that heel strike. So this is another common thing that we see. And as we mentioned before, that is going to not only increase risk of injury, it's going to slow you down. It's going to cause your shoes to wear out quicker. So moving that foot strike up under the body is going to improve that. And one way we can improve the heel strike is by increasing the cadence in a lot of cases. It is difficult to maintain that heel strike when you are running at a 90 or 180 cadence. So if you feel like you are landing with your foot out in front of the body, having that heel strike, pay attention to your cadence. And my guess is it's going to be below that 90, 180 number. And so increasing that, shortening that stride down is going to reduce the amount of heel strike. Another common issue is hip rotation and arm swing. I see this a lot, as we mentioned before at the very beginning. We want to make sure that our hips are staying primarily still. There's going to be a natural movement as the legs move. And then we want to do our best to maintain a relatively straight sagittal plane with the arms not coming across in the lateral movement. And I will say this is very common with the ladies. So it actually has to do with a female's center of gravity being lower. It contributes to that. So as the arms move across the body, that's going to cause the hips to move back and forth. And again, that's going to translate all the way down to causing some swing with the legs, swings with the feet, whereas that's going to reduce the efficiency of our run. So the more we can keep everything moving straight ahead in that sagittal plane, the better off we're going to be. As mentioned, the lower body does what the upper body it does. So we want to make sure that we are reducing that rotation with the arms and keeping them on that straight path. So a couple tips to maximize your run. Enjoy group runs. I will say that running with friends really is a highlight of my triathlon career. I have had some amazing conversations during runs. I've had some amazingly therapeutic sessions out on runs. And I will say I enjoy running so much more when I'm running with someone else, whether it be another individual or a whole group. So take advantage of that as you are able to. Mix up the terrain. A lot of us spend a vast majority of our time running on the roads, the sidewalk, the concrete pavement. That can be hard on the body. So head over to the track. I'm a huge proponent of running on the track. My distance PR on the track is 18 miles. I think that comes out to like 72, 74 laps, something like that. But the track is very predictable. It's safe. I love running on the track. It's soft, a little bit more forgiving than running out on the road. And then obviously your speed session set up really nicely on the track as well. And then got on the trails as well. So that's going to help develop your running skills. So it's not just running in that straight line. It's you're going to have to utilize some of those stability muscles, which will then strengthen those as well, because you're running on that uneven terrain. So just be careful. Reduce that as you get closer to race day. Obviously, there is a higher risk of some injuries, some different injuries out there on the trail, tripping on roots or stepping in holes, that kind of thing. So as race day approaches, maybe back off the trails a little bit, but during the off season when races are far away, great opportunity just to mix things up as well as to develop some different physiology. And then always remember to dial in your race day protocols. So this goes back to our discussion of the four horsemen. So we want to make sure that we are dialing in our pacing, our nutrition, our hydration, electrolytes, and our cooling protocols. So as we talked about then, every session is an opportunity to dial those in, especially those long sessions. So on these long runs, make sure that you're not just going out and running, but make sure that you're also taking advantage of that opportunity to dial in those four horsemen so that when race day rolls around, you know exactly what pace to be running, you know how many calories to consume, how much hydration and electrolytes you need, and you know how to stay cool. And then I would say one of the biggest things in running is ditch the ego. Don't be afraid to run slow or even take walk breaks. So we talked about the benefits of developing that aerobic efficiency that is done primarily through running slow. I get it. It's more fun. It's more sexy to run fast, but it's important to run slow. And oftentimes that just revolves around the ego. Don't be afraid of walk breaks either. Basically what I do in my long sessions, I do a 9-to-1 protocol. So I'll run for 9 minutes and generally either slow jog or walk for 1 minute. And that just allows me to regroup. It allows my heart rate to come down. And it's actually been proven to reduce the recovery time. So there are little micro breaks, little micro recoveries that are actually going to be beneficial even after that session is complete. And that's how I race as well. I don't necessarily take a full minute, but Oftentimes, the aid stations on the run course are about a mile apart. So I will take that opportunity as a little break. Obviously, I'm going to be refueling at that aid station, but it's also just a mental break, a physical break. It's going to allow that heart rate to drop a little bit. Even if it's 10 to 15 seconds spent at that aid station, that actually is going to be beneficial further down the road. So again, we want to train like we race. So don't be afraid of taking those walk breaks. All right, that's what we got for the run. Lots of exciting things to come up on the podcast. I'm already excited for the next couple episodes. Thank you for the contributions, the suggestions. I'm working those in, and would continue to invite you to submit your questions, your topic suggestions, and I will do my best to make sure that those are covered. Once again, Happy New Year. If I can be of service to you through coaching, I would be happy to do that. Reach out, and I'm happy to set up a call. We can discuss your goals and how I can help you achieve those. And with that, again, have an amazing 2026. Thanks for tuning into Tribe Triathlon, where athletes come together to train smarter, race stronger, and thrive together. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your training partners. Join the Tribe Facebook group to connect with community, and check out tribetriathlon.net to learn more about Tribe coaching. Until then, stay focused, stay consistent, and keep building the tribe.